What's good, agents? It's me, Agent SD3, and today we're going to talk about one of my favorite decks, if not my favorite outright. Let's not lie. My favorite deck from BT5, which is an AncientGreymon tribal deck, which every time I play people with it, they're always really surprised and maybe confused by some of the choices in the deck. But for those of you guys who've been hanging out in the streams, you know why this deck works really well. I've been talking about making a deck profile about it forever, and I finally decided, you know what, let me go ahead and sit down and do that. So before we jump into that, make sure you guys drop a like on this video and hit the subscribe button to be notified about any videos that we're going to be doing in the future, which will be more Digimon related content. Going to be doing more things like deck profiles, tips on getting into the game, where some good places to buy some cards, doing more kind of market watches, things like that. But if you're looking to get into Digimon TCG, look no further. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and let's just go ahead and get right into the deck profile. All right, cool, and here we are, guys. We're talking about AncientGreymon. So let's go ahead and start with our Digitama, the babies for this set. We decided to go with 4 of the Coromon from BT5. This is the latest Coromon. Whenever you swing with a Digimon with Agumon or Greymon, I'm sorry, with Greymon or Omnimon in its name, you get to draw a card. Obviously, this is great because red and draw power is awesome. That was one of the biggest pitfalls of the deck previously. It just didn't have the draw power that it so desperately needs. And with this card, well, you get it whenever you swing. So sometimes you may be swinging with your Greymons, your regular Greymons, just to draw a card, and kind of playing a little bit of Russian roulette to see if you survive. But trust me, it's worth it. And we're all running one Sakudamon. You don't have to run this. I do it just because it has come in handy sometimes with my Omnimons or X Antibody. That's why it's in here. But you really don't have to. You could just do 4 and be done, or go with a Digimon or any other red Digimon except for Babydomon, and I think you'd be fine. So let's talk about level 3s. Now, level 3s really shouldn't be much of a surprise. It is a little bit of an Agumon party. So we're going to be starting off with 4 of the Agumon that came around at the beginning of the game. It's one of the first promo cards. This Agumon, pretty standard stats, 3 play cost, 2k DP. However, he gives your Digimon with Greymon in their name 2000 DP, which obviously gives everybody in this deck 2000 DP except for the Agunimon and your Monochromats, and then the Omnimon. But other than that, pretty much everybody in the deck is going to benefit from this, which is great. Next, we are running 4 of the Agumon from the starter deck. Another great option. Beautiful card, gives you plus 1k DP. And this is not restricted to any Digimon. So, or rather, you can it applies for any Digimon. So, it's 1000 DP across the board, which is great. Last, we are running 4 of the new Agumon. It's the Searcher one. They came around in BT5. This Agumon, when you drop him, it lets you search for an Omnimon and or a Greymon by revealing the top 3 cards from your deck. You're going to get a lot of hits on this. I mean, sometimes you're going to whiff. That's just going to happen. But you're going to make more hits than more often than not, which has been super helpful for this deck. And again, we're talking about search. Look, search and draw power. Look no further. All right, so let's go ahead and go into level 4s. So this is where things get a little weird. But we'll start off with the 4 Greymon. This is the new Greymon from BT5. This Greymon will give your Omnimons and Greymons plus 2000 DP on your turn, which is great. Obviously, again, you're running quite a few Greymon, and you're running quite a few, Omnimon options, so everybody's gonna eat with this. Also, when you Digivolve with him, if you Digivolve on top of an Agumon, you gain 1 memory. So, you have all Agumon. So every time you Digivolve, he's gonna cost you 1, so long as it's in the battle area, which is great. And fun fact, if you do activate 2 Nokias, you can gain a memory back when you Digivolve into him. So if you need an extra memory for something, Nokia will give you that, which is great. Next, we're running Monochromats. 4. 1 cost to evolve blocker. That's why he's here. New card in BT5. Having a blocker, I don't think is ever a bad thing. I think sometimes with this deck, you just get into a situation where you need one. I think you could run this deck without blockers. I wouldn't, but I think you could. And next, we're running 4 of the promo Agunimon. This card is amazing. He gives you so many options with AncientGreymon to basically finish out games seemingly out of nowhere, especially since you can attack, you'll Digivolve into Ancient Grey, and then if your turn didn't end, you can Digivolve into Omni on top of that, and sometimes that's going to go for a game, or you're just blowing out the rest of their security. It all kind of depends on the situation, but it's a great way to just kind of take your opponent by surprise. And also, not only that, with this inheritable, you can reduce the cost of going into your AncientGreymon by 2, which again, super helpful, especially since we're running Nokia's. Sorry, y'all, I'm over here dropping cards. Okay, let's look at our level 5s. So our level 5 list is kind of strange, just in the way it's spread, but you know, it works. We're running 3 of the Metal Greymon Altarius mode. When you Digivolve with him on top of a level 5, it costs you 1. So sometimes your stack may look something like this. It just kind of happens. But when he Digivolves on top of a Digimon with Metal Greymon in its name, you get to pop any Digimon your opponent has with 4k DP or less, which is great. Unfortunately, you're not going to get rid of any of the pain in the ass blockers, but still, popping Digimon, especially against Rookie Rush and even Lord Knightmon, is very helpful. Prevents you from getting swarmed, which sucks. Next, we're running 3 of the Metal Greymon from the starter deck. He is still an awesome unit. Why? If your opponent blocks, guess what? You gain 3 memory. This deck forces your opponent to make that decision. Giving you more memory can be deadly because then you can just keep evolving up and do more crazy things. That's why he's here. Next, we're running 2 of the Metal Greymon, the secret rare from BT1. Really awesome card because you're going to give any Digimon in that stack an extra 3k DP, which is great for AncientGreymon because I'll give it 16k. It can swing through anything in the stack, so long as, of course, you don't hit a crazy option. Also, if you need to swing with him, you can, because it is going to have +2 security check. Only the problem is you're going to lose 5 memory when you swing. So, you know, sometimes you may want to do that just because you have, let's say you have 2 memory and they have a memory tamer anyway. I mean, you might as well go ahead and attempt to swing, right? So he's pretty good. 9k DP. He's gonna get through a lot of things in security. Not all, but a lot. Next, we're gonna talk about level 6s. So for level 6s, we have, of course, AncientGreymons. We have 3 of them. You could run these at 4, but I don't personally. But I definitely think that's a feasible option. But AncientGreymon is great for a multitude of reasons, especially with this Agunimon. You know, you Digivolve on top of the Agunimon, and then if you Digivolve again on top of the Omnimon with Ancient Grey, which we'll get to in a bit when we talk a little bit about combos, those checks that Ancient Grey gain that turn will also go to Omnimon. So you're getting rid of everything in security. It's great. Also, when Ancient Grey dies, you can play a level 4 hybrid, red hybrid or less from your hand. The only thing you're going to be playing is those Agunimons. But because this deck has so much draw power, there's a high chance that you probably have another Agunimon, one of the level 4s, the only ones in your hand. So you can just drop another one. And sometimes that Agunimon surviving can mean you win the next turn. Just something to keep in mind. All depends on the matchup. But you're kind of forcing your opponent to decide, do I get rid of this Agunimon or do I make some other play? Oftentimes, they will choose to get rid of the Agunimon because with Agunimon on board, you can set up to do the same play again, or you might evolve into something else, or just swing for game. So, again, it's all about forcing your opponent to make complicated and difficult decisions. Next, we have 2 of the War Greymon from BT1. He's great, turns off option cards in the stack when he swings. On Digivolve that turn, he gains a security attack, so you're doing at least a minimum of 2 checks on the turn that you evolve into him on, which obviously is good. And then depending on your stack, you're probably going to have this guy well over 11k because of all the Greymons, the Metal Greymon, the Altarius mode, the Agumon. You should be able to get him into a safe range where you can kill anything like 14k or less and be safe. Generally speaking, it should be pretty easy. And lastly, we're only running 1 of the new War Greymon, which again, I think if you wanted to run more, you could. If you wanted to change up this loadout, there's lots of level 6 top ends options that the Greymon Tribal gives you. But I've just found for me, this is the most optimal sort of combination. I've tried it with Blitz. Blitz was cool, but that 4 cost sometimes sucked if I didn't have the right Nokias online and set up. Also, it just didn't have as much removal as I would like. Yes, Digivolving by 2 is great, but at the same time, I'd rather just kill something and get it out of the way, which is one of the reasons I love this War Greymon, because I can just pop a blocker, it's gone, get out of my face. That's great. And he has this inheritable with your Omnimon, well, I mean, any level 7, but specifically talking about Omnimon here, that you will go ahead and pop anything 3k DP or less. So again, removal in the long run for me has been more beneficial than the spot removal of Blitz Greymon. So now let's talk about level 7s. So I've talked about them a lot. we are running 3 Omnimons from BT5. This Omnimon, when digivolving, he has Blitz, but also one of his most awesome abilities is that you can remove your level 6 to prevent him from being destroyed by your opponent's card effect or being returned to your hand or deck. So Nidhogg, he just dodges that, which is great. Somebody had asked me about this before, and I had answered this correctly before, but just for the sake of this video, also, if you swing into something with retaliation is an effect, so you can use Omnimon to not be killed by retaliation. However, if your opponent has 2 retaliations on one Digimon, you will avoid the first one, and then the second one will still go off, and you will die. Just keep that in mind. But this Omni is great. There's lots of awesome plays you can do with this by evolving on top of that level 6 War Greymon, which let me just pull him up real quick. That I was showing you guys before, that gains a check on evolve, so you can swing in for him, do 2 checks, go in because he unsuspends, get that blitz, swing in for another 2 checks because he will maintain the extra check that War Greymon had. So that's also really cool. Then the final level 7 that we're running is actually one, where are you? Oh, there it is. One Omnimon X Antibody. I only run one. You probably don't even need to run this card, to be honest. I just run it because I love this Digimon. I think he's awesome, and I love his effects. So sometimes he'll come in clutch because, you know, you have a whole huge stack thanks to Alterius mode, and every time you are faced with an attack, you can remove 2 cards from his source, and you can end the attack, which is super helpful. Sometimes that will just save you because you don't have any blockers or anything like that. Also, every time he swings, you can pop any Digimon who has less DP than he does. So sometimes you're getting rid of 2 Digimon because you're swinging into one and you're popping another for free. It's great. And obviously, nothing is going to be more powerful than him based on the fact that if you built a good stack, he's probably sitting at 20k plus minimum. So you're good. With this, if you get out X Antibody, you're in a good spot. And also, if you Digivolve into him on top of anything with Omnimon in its name, the cost is reduced by 3, so you're Digivolving for 3, which is great. And if you get your Nokias, that keeps decreasing. Speaking of Nokia, let's go ahead and talk about Tamers. We are running 4 Nokia Shiramine. Why? Nokia is amazing for this deck. Nokia will, when you play her, you get to play an Agumon or Gabumon, which is irrelevant because we're not running Gabumons, obviously, for free. Obviously, what you really want to do is get your searcher out for free, get that free search on. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. As long as you get the Agumons on board, it's great because you'll be able to do a pseudo rookie rush if you need it. You can get a bunch of Agumons and force your opponent into a weird situation if you have a couple big hitters that are over there destroying their security, while Agumons is kind of waiting to swing it. Obviously, sometimes this can bite you in the ass if you get hit with an Ultimate Flare, because all those Agumons are a play cost of 3 or less. Certain events will cause you to be hit with a board wipe, so just keep that in mind. Nokia, if you didn't know, also her other effect is when you Digivolve into a Digimon with Greymon or Omnimon, or Garurumon in its name, suspend it, reduce the evolution cost by 1. You can do this with the Gunimon. So, what I mean by that is, when you use a Gunimon's ability, I'm actually going to pull up the cards here, just kind of a visual aid. So give me 1 second, guys. Okay, here we go. So if you have a Gunimon, and you swing in with the Gunimon, and then you use Nokia's effect, let's say you have 2, right? You can reduce the evolution cost into AncientGreymon for free, which is awesome, because it lets you go right into the combo I had mentioned before. So you do that, that's 2 checks. Then, let's go ahead and blitz into Omni. Sometimes what will happen, if you're really lucky, is, yes, while it's a 4 memory cost, you might have enough memory that it just unsuspends on its own. So you don't even have to blitz, you can just attack normally because you're unsuspended. Or let's say you reduce the cost again with Nokia. So the combinations, while they can be situational, they can be really easy to set up for yourself, because once you get these Nokias online, the floodgates just open. And because you're running 4 of them, you should get at least 1 Nokia per game, depending upon, I guess, how long the game is and if you just bricked completely, which bricking hasn't been too big of an issue for me with this deck. It can happen, obviously, because that just happens to everybody. I don't care what you say, it happens to everybody. But Once you get a Nokia out, you're generally pretty good, because even if your opponent decides to try and memory choke you, you can just reduce the cost of the evolutions. And we are running one memory tamer. We are running a Tai Kamiya. You could try and up this. You could get rid of one extra antibody maybe and put in a second Tai Kamiya. I don't think that'd be wrong. I think you could do more. I personally have found that one works best for me, especially when you're really using Nokia to your advantage to just reduce those costs down. Tai is great because you're going to be able to give your Greymons other additional checks. And because you're running so many Altarius modes, it's possible that even your level 5 will get additional checks, because you will be able to have 4 sources or more relatively easy. Again, because Altarius mode can stack on top of additional level 5s. So there's that. You can start swinging pretty early with this deck. Once you get your Altarius modes out, you're free to swing for the most part, because you can get them to 10 or even 12k. You're surviving most things in this deck. Another good thing to remember with this deck is you don't have to focus so heavily on getting out AncientGreymon or getting out a level 7. You can start swinging once you hit the Metal Greymon threshold. Ironically, that's very much like the Aldemon deck or the previous AncientGreymon deck. I didn't really like it as much just because it was too slow for me, but you can do some similar combos because of the various cards that have come out in Greymon Tribal. Next, let's talk about options. 2 Gaia Force. I don't think it needs any explaining. Kill any Digimon. I personally think Transcendent Sword, I won't say it's trash, but it's, if you're not playing security control, I would never run Transcendent Sword. Paying 1 less memory for, targeted deletion or deletion with requirements, to me just isn't worth it, because I've seen plenty of scenarios where somebody wanted to Transcendent Sword something and they couldn't, because they didn't have the Omnimon or Greymon out, and I hit it in security, and I hit it with something that has like 15k 14k DP, but no Omnimon or Greymon. So I personally wouldn't use Transcendent Sword unless you're playing in security control and you just need more possible ways to pop things. That's just me. Next, we're playing a Trident Revolver. This one is fantastic. I used to run 3 of these, but I found that this was a little better, because having the 1 Trident Revolver makes it a little bit more techy and a little bit more specific for you to use than having the 3. So if you don't know, Trident Revolver pops any Digimon 6k or less, meaning you get rid of pesky blockers, which is always good for this deck, and then you get to play a Tamer for free. The ideal combo is to get Trident Revolver, then you can go ahead and off Trident Revolver, play a Nokia, and then off Nokia, you can play a Searcher Agumon, and then off Searcher Agumon, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck and add that Omnimon and or Greymon to your hand. That, in a perfect world, is a beautiful ass combo. It's so cool to do. It's not going to happen all the time, and I would not wait on it to happen and try to assemble all your pieces. If you need the Trident Revolver, even if you don't have a Tamer, use it, because blockers are a pain in your ass. Ideally, you want this in security, but sometimes that doesn't happen. That is the deck. I'm really curious to see how you guys may have built a Greymon tribal situation. I've seen plenty of these decks popping up on YouTube, but not only that, I've run into plenty of people in the Digimon Discord and in other events playing various iterations of this deck. And I personally, and I'm not saying this just because I use it, think this is the best iteration right now, or at least it seems to be the most destructive and the one that people don't really expect, because nobody respects AncientGreymon. Okay, y'all have been disrespecting AncientGreymon since the previous format, because it wasn't that great. It was just something that I personally loved. I'm super happy that this deck can win events, whether they be big or small. I think that this deck can be a contender. I did win a smaller local with this deck, the same one that we won the Yellow War Greymon with using the Yellow War Greymon. I've played this deck against various things. Lord Knightmon, you can stand up to Lord Knightmon with this deck. There's enough spot removal in this deck, and it is fast enough that you can also punish those Blinding Rays with the Agunimon, AncientGreymon, Omnimon combo that I mentioned before. There are a lot of ways to kind of contend with that. So I say that to say, try this deck out. Let me know what you guys think. I'm really curious. We're What other red decks are you running in this format? And like I said at the beginning of the video, guys, do not forget to hit that like button and make sure you guys subscribe for more Digimon trading card game content. I also stream on Twitch Monday through Friday, starting by 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we play a lot of Digimon over there as well. So if you want to, chat with me at the game live, play some games live with the community, you're more than welcome to. Please do. I will be starting to stream on YouTube soon as well, so I have a presence on both spaces. So I hope to catch you guys either on Twitch or YouTube. But that's it for me. This video is already long enough. Just want to hear your thoughts on red and what decks you're running right now with the Greymon Tribal. Anyway, y'all, take care. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.